Well, all right, everybody. Welcome back to the Diamond Vogel Studios here in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. I'm the preacher,
I'm the prodigy.
and we are back with week 2 discussions. We have had I'm going to say, kind of an uneventful week 1 in a lot of respects. Nothing super surprising happened on the national level. There were a couple things notable. What did you notice as you looked out, especially in the top 25 landscape in week 1, the first full weekend of National College Football,
Well,
Jericho?
what everybody's really been looking at is how Florida State went from 10 to unranked. There's always a team every year that starts off in the top 10 and then continues the rest of the year and ends up outside the top 25. It looks like it's going to be Florida State losing one to Georgia Tech in Ireland and then getting kind of owned on their home turf by Boston College. You know, they took a knee at Florida State's 6-yard line just out of mercy for them.
Yeah, that game, they could have had 35.
It was just an embarrassing game. They got run all over. It's not a good look for the Seminoles. Otherwise, all the big teams won. Oregon had a little bit of a fight. They moved the ball well, but they only beat Idaho by 10. So go Vandals, I guess. Put up a fight there.
Yeah. I think some statement games. Georgia clearly, as predicted here, Georgia really did not have any trouble, especially in the second half with Clemson.
Yeah.
Is it Nate Frazier? Is that the name of the tailback? Something Frazier just looked really, really good as the tailback. Again, not to toot my own horn, but I thought Danton Lind would make a big difference with the University of Southern California defense. They now look like a Big Ten contender. Although I said I'm not sure LSU's great. I don't think that they have the offensive firepower or the defensive talent they've had in previous years. I think they're a good team. We both thought they're maybe top 15, but I don't think they're a top 5 team. And I don't think USC is either. But a nice win. Really impressed with Notre Dame going down into Aggie land and defeating Texas A&M. I know that's a game that Mike Elko really, really wanted to have to kick off the season. We're now seeing that Notre Dame is becoming a program that is maturing, both offensively and defensively. Again, Riley Leonard with a lot of running plays to move the chains there. So I think USC, Notre Dame, Georgia, all stock up. Yeah, perhaps stock down on Oregon, although it's really, really early. Again, Penn State, they had a nice win.
In about a 6-hour game after the rain delay,
Absolutely. They were helped, as any road team would be, by a long weather delay. A lot of those fans just decided to go home and watch them.
And how about the battle on the swamp when Miami went into Ben Hill Griffin Stadium and Cam Ward looked like a Heisman favorite.
Yeah.
He was balling. He looked like Bryce Young came back for another year of college. Just making plays all over the field, different arm angles. He looked superb. So that could be
we don't want to overreact. I'm not sure Florida's particularly good. A win in the swamp is a win in the swamp, which is saying something. But I think we both picked Miami to win and cover that game. Nothing terribly surprising to us about that, but on the flip side, I think that there were a few things that did strike us that were unexpected. I was not thinking that Florida State would be this bad a year after going 13-0 in the regular season. I'm really surprising. The Big Ten went 17-1. Didn't expect that.
Who lost?
Minnesota lost to North Carolina on the Thursday night game. Other than that, the Big Ten was just taking people apart. So that was a bit of a surprise to me as well. And we'll learn more as the season goes on. We're not sure. Maybe Boston College is really good. We don't know. Bill O'Brien in his first year. But let's pivot now to talk about the Michigan Wolverines. We always make a point of looking backwards at the previous game and then looking ahead at the next game. Michigan 30, Fresno State 10 in a game that was much closer than that.
Yeah, the score definitely did not give a good reference point to how the game was played. Fresno played their tails off. Really well-coached game for both sides of the ball of them. They had players to get the job done in certain aspects of it. And it was kind of just a game that we were expecting to be just annoying as Michigan fans. A game that was never really in doubt, but it was a lot closer than you would like to see. Offensively for Michigan,
I had a couple doubts.
It did not look pretty. It looked like you're watching a 7-year-old try and play Madden. Just stare down one receiver the whole time and throw it to him, not go through any reads or anything, which isn't really the Michigan system. It's often like 1-2 and then duck and run.
Yeah.
But you would like to see a little bit more. Okay, this guy's double teamed. Go to the next guy. There were a few plays. I remember one where Colston Loveland probably had a wide open touchdown, but he decided to throw the ball into traffic. Davis Warren did, and it was incomplete. The line did not look great. Mullings did the best that he could with it and still looked solid. But that's something that Donovan Edwards really needs, is a good line to give him holes that he can burst through. Colston looked great. And Orji did not. Orji looked terrible. He went probably 1 for 3. He had the touchdown pass where he came in and threw it to Donovan. But other than that, he turfed one and left it 5 yards short of the receiver.
And the whole fact of Davis Warren being not just a guy, but really the guy, is news that we were sort of picking up on as game week continued. But when we recorded our pregame podcast, we still believed it would be Alex Orji taking, the lion's share of the snaps. Davis Warren, through the course of fall camp, either closed the gap via good play, or Alex Orji just is an athlete trying to play quarterback and does not have the processing power, the ability to read a defense, or the arm talent to really lead a college football offense, and is a gadget player.
Yeah, let's stick him at kick returner. What's the worst that could happen? We already have
his brother was a good linebacker for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it did not look pretty. He had a few good reads. He had one really good keep on a read option on 3rd down that kept the chains going and kept the drive alive.
That was a nice play. He sold out everybody in the stadium thought he'd given the ball.
But apart from that, he did not look good. Everybody looked rusty, and that's kind of what you can expect from week 1, but just not a pretty showing from the Maize and Blue. And you want to talk about that one drive that they had? You want to break this down, what happened? 3 interceptions on one drive. How is that even possible?
Well, the first one really wasn't. I think even though Quentin Johnson ripped out the turnover buffs, it turned out not to be
turnover buff counter 1.
Yes. And then Makari Page had a pick, which was called back due to something that was less intense than what I just did to Jericho right there. TJ Guy got flagged for roughing.
Bus number 2.
And then after, subsequently, there was some unsportsmanlike conduct that took the ball from the 10 to the other 45.
Well, what happened was their little running back, Sherrod, I think, ripped Barham's towel out from under him and started walking back to the Fresno sideline. And Barham wasn't having it. He walked back and tried to get it back from him. The refs always see the second guy, and Barham got flagged. So that's a 30-yard play for them.
Guy who responds.
And, the next thing that happened, TJ Guy gets a face mask and a horse collar in the same play. I don't know how that even was rough.
That was legit. But that put the ball down to about the 12-yard line, something like that.
And
then turnover number 3 came. Will Johnson jumped a quick out route and took it back to the house. And himself somehow got flagged for unsportsmanlike. We don't even know what happened.
He took off his helmet and started mean mugging at the student section, and the rest were just.
Oh, so he did take his helmet off. I didn't know if I'd seen
that. But that's after the play.
So that proved to be really what put the distance between the two teams, along with the first interception at the very beginning of the game, Zeke Berry, which set up Michigan with a short field. Mm-hmm. Other than that, the offense was terrible.
Yeah.
And so there's really, in our minds, kind of a ratcheting back of expectations, which, if you heard our previous podcast, weren't that high to begin with about the offense. I called it a remodeling year. It might be a rebuilding year. Except the problem is, next year, you're going to lose, Colston Loveland. You're going to lose Miles Hinton. You're going to lose Donovan Edwards. You're going to lose Kalel Mullings. So are you remodeling 2 years in a row? We're not quite sure. The future of Michigan's offense is very, very dim right now, except for the fact the transfer portal will be available and it could be an attractive place. Let's talk about the defense, though. The defense, 4.4 yards of play is nothing to talk about on the offense. The defense looked pretty good, I think, kind of as expected. Some guys looked a little better than we thought. The defensive ends, Josiah Stewart, Derek Moore, both really balled out, especially Stewart wearing that number 0. Defensive tackles, maybe not as noticeable as we might have expected.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to occupy space and take up two defensive linemen. They probably weren't really trying to go all out for the quarterback, and you didn't see a lot of the time Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham on the field at the same time unless it was a crucial third down. But it was really just allowing the edges to be one-on-one in space and to take advantage of the Fresno defensive line. As for, Will Johnson, can we talk about this a little bit? Will Johnson looked shaky.
Yep.
He had a few plays where he just simply got beat, a fade route and a double move route where it was like, if you're the best corner in the nation and a number one draft pick potentially, you can't be getting beat like that against Fresno State. It was not fun to watch.
Are you willing to say EA Sports Will Johnson is better than real world Will Johnson? Real world
Probably.
Johnson didn't come out as a 99 against Fresno.
It just wasn't fun to watch as an All-American go out there and get beat by these pretty much no-names.
I think we also saw that Wink Martindale is not Jesse Minter. He's not Mike McDonald, though he was their tutor and teacher. He definitely wants to send guys. He wants to blitz more often, and in this particular game on the touchdown play, it was poorly execued. So Michigan is going to need to do something different. Jaden McBurrows was 8 yards off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
And he was on a turnstile once he was in defense. So let's talk about the best news of the day. Let's talk Dominic Zavada.
I was telling you before the game, you were like, oh boy, this is a 56-yarder. I don't know if he can hit it. And I'm like, I played college football 25. Big, highest rated kick power in the game at 97. He has a cannon for a leg, and he drilled the one that you doubt that he would go in. He had a few other field goals that looked good, and our special teams, kicking wise, kicker and punter, are going to be among the best in the Big Ten because Doman is also a great punter.
I'm definitely with those who think that Claude Mullings may as well just take a touchback if he's going to run it out to the 24 each time.
Yeah.
Keep the tread off the tires. Or give someone else a return back there. So, Michigan looked shaky. You know who didn't look shaky last Saturday? The University of Texas. And they ride into Ann Arbor this weekend. And let's begin there with our picks. College Game Day will be there. Big Noon Saturday will be there as well. So both Fox and ESPN will have their booths and all their personnel set up in Ann Arbor for a game that Texas is a 7-point. You said the line is a little bit.
It's in between 6 and 7.5. Right now it is Longhorns by a touchdown and an extra point.
So we're going to go with 7 as our line. Texas comes to town after just absolutely taking apart Colorado State, 52-0.
Got some Arch Manning screen time, which social media people are like, oh my goodness, I know that guy, not for football, but because he's related to some other great quarterbacks, and it was fun to watch him throw a touchdown and run for another. Get some reps in the Texas uniform.
So let's jump in. We've got a pick to make here. Based on what you saw last week of both teams, based on what might have been held back by one or both teams last week in anticipation of this game, based on the home atmosphere in Ann Arbor, based on the experience versus inexperience of these coaching staffs, what do you want to do with 7.5? Do you want to take it? Do you want to give it away?
See, this game could go either way, and honestly, when you look at it from an outside view, but still understanding stuff, it does look like Texas, with the way Michigan performed last week, Texas is going to just dismantle Michigan this week. But taking a little bit closer look, if Michigan learns and if Wink Martindale learns not to send the house every time and learn to get home to Ewers with 4 or 5 people, and keep everything else in front of you, kind of like the Iowa defense like we talked about earlier, nothing behind you because those Texas receivers are ballers, and give them long fields to where they have to run the ball, which is not their strength, consistently running the ball, and give them those long fields and eventually taking advantage of maybe a mistake or two, which gives Michigan a short field, which they usually are able to take advantage of. I think I'm going to stick with my gut and take Texas here to cover. I think as a Michigan fan, I want to take Michigan cover because I could see it happen. I don't really think I see them winning. But on paper, Texas is just better all around the board. They're as good all around the board. And it just seems like they're out for revenge from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the Horns. Big win in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I don't know if we're just putting too much personal prejudice into this, but I don't see Michigan really having a chance to win this game in a reasonable kind of frame of mind. I mean, the reason I say bias is because if it was week 7 and it was Texas going on the road to, I don't know, Kansas State, a team maybe like Michigan, could you say, I can see Kansas State keeping that thing close at home? I could, but I just saw Michigan and I saw an offense that is really without playmakers on the perimeter. I see an offense where their headliner just, unless he's got a 4-player wide gap in the defensive line, doesn't do anything. I see a quarterback who, like you said, cannot relocate a safety with his eyes. He predetermines where the ball's going. And I see a lot of 3-and-outs. Again, I'm a believer in Michigan's defense. I think that they will slow Texas's offense. I don't think they're going to score 52 against Michigan. But I just don't think Michigan's offense is going to be able to give that, we kept calling it the creme brulee defense, or crust on top and then a lot underneath. They're very, 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 very stingy on top, but beneath that, we saw the second, third strings are not that good. Those guys are going to get gassed. I think Texas wins this game pulling away in the second half. I think this game could be 17-10 at the half, but I got Texas winning this game. I'm going to say 31-10.
Right.
And I hope it's not true, but I think what's going to come to us is what came to me back in the year of our Lord 1998. Michigan coming off a national championship. You thought your team could never lose again. Donovan McNabb comes in the Syracuse Orange in September to play a team that returned a ton of defensive parts from a national championship unit, and he just tore us up. And you're like, oh, there's maybe something about the chemistry and magic of a national championship here you can't get back, even if a lot of the same parts are there. And I feel like we're going to, at 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, say, hey, they'll never be able to take away what we enjoyed last year, but this year is not going to be that kind of year again. It could be an 8-4, 8-5 kind of season.
Yeah, it seems like a game where Michigan is going to score a touchdown on the first drive and do nothing after. And I think it could just be a big Donovan Edwards rung on the first or few plays of the game, and then after that, Texas completely shuts us down. And I think that's a real possibility. Give me Texas to cover and win this game. You said 31-10. I'm gonna go.
You're closer than that.
I'm gonna go 28-10. I think 30. I said 34-10 earlier as we were talking about this. I'm gonna go 28-10. I think it's gonna be a long, a short game, but long drives for Texas, and they will end up paying off. So
I think Texas gets 3 offensive touchdowns. I think they get a touchdown in some other way. Davis Warren rather. Interception, something like that, and then a field goal. I just think Michigan's going to struggle to move the ball. So give me Texas by a lot.
All right.
21 points.
Let's move on to other games. Just to recap, last week you nearly went 5-0, and you went against your conscience and picked LSU, even though you were riding high on USC this year.
But can we say that we made a mistake in our previous podcast?
We did. Yes. Okay.
I think that might have changed my pick.
Possibly.
So nothing we can do about it now.
We had said that the USC LSU game was in
Georgia,
however, that's where the Georgia Bulldogs were playing. The LSU-USC game was in Vegas.
On the West Coast.
Much different environment.
And you could hear it.
Yeah. Well, LSU fans travel well. SEC fans always do. But it's not like it was an 80-20 ratio. It was more of a 55-45 in favor of LSU.
It happens. You make mistakes. So, anyway,
you went 4-1-3-2 in terms of picking the Michigan game. You were only 4 points off of the score in total. And I was 9. We will be keeping tabs of those. as the year goes on. At the end of the year, we'll see who knows Michigan football games better.
All right,
Let's move on.
Yep, lightning round here. We're already at 20 minutes, so
Pick the Cy-Hawk game. It's Iowa State at Iowa. This is a 2:30 game on CBS, and the Hawkeyes are favored by a field goal.
The offensive juggernaut that is the Iowa Hawkeyes.
6 points in the first half and 34 in the second. When has that happened?
Yeah, something got awakened there. I'm going to take the Hawkeyes because Matt Campbell doesn't beat Kirk Ferentz. Last year he did, which is a rarity. I think Iowa seems to have found something. I'm going to take the Hawks at home.
Yeah, give me Iowa too. It's gonna be interesting to watch because both the teams are gonna pass a lot more than they did in previous many years. It's gonna be more of a modern style of game, but give me the Hawkeyes to continue.
It's one of those games where I think that a lot of people will turn to it nationally because they're bored of other games, and in the fourth quarter it's going to be 14-13 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But Kirk Ferentz finds a way to win the in-state game almost every time.
All right, next up, the Duke's Mayo Classic kickoff game. I think it's called in Charlotte is Tennessee and NC State. The only other top 25 matchup of the week.
They're not playing this one at a racetrack this time, huh?
They are not. They're playing this one in the Panther Stadium, and Tennessee is favored. This was at like 6.5, 7. Tennessee is now favored by 10. They did not look like what they saw from NC State Wolfpack last week, apparently. I have to pick. I am not going to think about this one very hard, and I'm going to pick Tennessee because Nico Iamaleava, I think.
Iamaleava.
However it is, Nico it does seem like his trajectory is going up, and I don't think that's going to stop against NC State. They're not really a defense that you look at and be like, they have a ton of NFL talent on the defense. So give me Josh Heupel and that explosive Tennessee offense to take advantage of NC State and score a lot of points. So give me Tennessee to cover.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we mentioned this in our top offenses that Heupel always seems to have an amped-up offense. This year, James Pierce leading the defense. I'm going to take Tennessee to cover as well, even though it's functionally a road game for them. I think that NC State probably just does not have the firepower to keep pace or keep this thing within 2 touchdowns.
All right, we agree.
Up on Rocky Top.
The next game, we'll be heading to Lincoln, Nebraska, where Deion Sanders
it's going to be fun.
Is heading to play Matt Rule and the Huskers. Nebraska is favored by 7. It is a night game, so Memorial Stadium is going to be rocking. It gets loud down there. It's going to be very interesting to see how Colorado as a team and even as individual players, how they react to that. And how they either embrace it or light just fell.
Yeah,
but
we're good.
That's how you know that this is an authentic and real podcast.
We're going to cut this out. We're going to edit it out.
Not if you're watching it live.
Both of you. One of them is Mom. The other is Jim Whiteman.
Probably. Go Jim. This is a really hard one. I think
it's my turn to go first, right? Don't I go first?
You can go first.
I'm going Buffs. I'm going Buffs on this because I'm going to go kind of against what I think the sentiment is. I think a lot of people are going to take Nebraska at home. I do think that it's going to be the Shooter Sanders show. I think that Colorado wins this game in a high-scoring game. I'm going to say Colorado 34, Nebraska 28.
Man, I really want to disagree with you, but it's you look at Colorado and there's so much speed that Nebraska doesn't have on the perimeter. But I'm going to take Nebraska. I think
you're going to take Nebraska to win by more than 7.
I am going to take Nebraska to win by more than 7.
I'm taking those points.
I still haven't seen what I like to see from the Colorado line. They got pushed around by North Dakota State, which they don't get a lot of 5-star recruits.
Okay.
So give me Nebraska in their Big Ten style play to win by more than 7.
We disagree.
One more. We got Boise and Oregon. This will be a quick one. It is a very late night game. It's at 9 o'clock. This is an interesting game because of what Boise did last week. Their running back
Oregon only plays teams from the Potato State.
Had crazy numbers last week. Probably, I think it was like 6 touchdowns, almost 300 yards rushing. Oregon is favored by 19.5, though. Give me Oregon. I think that this is just going to be a statement game for them. Be like, well, you saw what Boise can do offensively last week, and we didn't show up and play at our home turf for kickoff. Give me Oregon to show nationally that they are still a team that can compete for a title.
I'm going to take Oregon to win the game 37-20, which makes me a Boise cover. Give me the Smurfs.
All right, we disagree on the last two.
And it fell again. Seems like a good time to wrap up this podcast for week 2. I'm the preacher.
I'm the prodigy.
And we're in the dark. Peace.
Peace.